Love is not about what we say. It's about what we do when life puts us to the test. Imagine being asked to give up the one thing you cherish the most. Not for yourself, but for someone you love. Would you do it? This is the story of Ayesha, a woman whose life teaches us that true love is not measured by gifts or promises, but by sacrifice. Ayesha was a gentle soul. She worked as a schoolteacher in a small town. Her salary was modest, but she never complained. Every morning, she wore the same simple cotton dress, packed her books in an old bag, and walked to school with a smile. Children adored her, not because she was rich or stylish, but because she carried warmth in her heart. Her husband, Imran, worked as a clerk in a local office. Together, they dreamed of building a future, saving money for a small house, raising a family, and living peacefully. They didn't have much, but they had love, and that was enough. Ayesha's most precious treasure was her late mother's gold bangles. Whenever she wore them, she felt her mother's blessings. She often told Imran, "One day, I'll give these to our daughter, and they'll remind her of strength and dignity." Their life was ordinary, but their love made it extraordinary. But happiness is fragile. One winter evening, Imran collapsed at work. He was rushed to the hospital, and doctors delivered the crushing news: he needs immediate treatment. Without it, his life is at risk. The treatment was expensive, far beyond their means. Ayesha sat in the hospital corridor, her eyes filled with tears. She whispered to herself, "Why Allah, give me strength. I cannot lose him." Days turned into nights. She worked double shifts, stayed awake sewing clothes, tutoring children, and skipping meals to save money. Yet, the bills only grew heavier. Her friends advised her to give up, to accept fate. But Ayesha's heart refused. She looked at Imran lying weak on the hospital bed and thought, "If I stop fighting, I will lose not just him, but the meaning of my life." One evening, after a long day, Ayesha opened her small wooden box, and took out the gold bangles. Her hands trembled as she held them. They weren't just ornaments. They were memories of her mother, symbols of love, dignity and heritage. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Ami, forgive me, but today, my husband's life matters more." The next morning, she went to the jeweler and sold the bangles. The money was enough to start Imran's treatment. When Imran learned what she had done, he cried like a child. "Ayesha, those bangles were your last memory of your mother. How could you?" She placed her hand on his and whispered, "Those bangles were my past. You are my present and my future. If I lose you, what will I hold on to?" Months passed. Imran slowly recovered. He returned home with new life in his body, but tears in his eyes whenever he saw Ayesha. He realized her sacrifice wasn't just about money. It was proof that true love has no limits. Their life returned to simplicity. They still lived in a small rented home, still cooked simple meals, still wore old clothes. But now their bond was stronger than steel. One evening, Ayesha's young daughter asked, "Mama, why don't you wear gold bangles like other women?" Ayesha smiled gently and said, "Because, my child, the most beautiful jewelry a woman can wear is the courage to sacrifice for the ones she loves." That single lesson stayed with the girl for life. Years later, when Ayesha grew old, her story became an inspiration in her town. People would often say, "She lost her gold, but gained a treasure greater than wealth. She gained love that will never die." Her sacrifice taught everyone that true love is giving, not demanding. A woman's strength is in her heart, not her possessions. Sacrifice may hurt for a moment, but it creates love that lasts forever. Ayesha's life was proof that love beyond limits is built not on luxury, but on sacrifice. Emotional rise and fall, struggle, sacrifice, recovery. Strong dialogues makes it relatable. Universal theme. Everyone connects with love and sacrifice. Woman's journey highlights courage and strength. In a small village surrounded by golden wheat fields and dusty roads, there lived a woman named Samina. She wasn't rich, nor did she wear fine clothes. Her home was built with clay walls, its roof patched with straw, and her belongings could fit into a single wooden chest. But ask anyone in that village who the most respected woman was, and they would whisper one name: Samina. Why? Because her heart was richer than any treasure chest. Every morning, she woke before dawn. She lit the small clay stove, made bread from whatever flour she had left, and sent her children to school with a smile. Even on days when her own stomach was empty. Her husband, Yusuf, worked on a rented farm. He was a kind man, but life had beaten him down. Each year, no matter how hard he worked, the harvest never covered the debts they owed. Yet, in their small home, there was love. They laughed together, shared simple meals, and dreamed that one day, their children would live a better life. But life often tests those who live with hope. One year, the rains never came. The earth cracked under the burning sun. Yusuf's crops shriveled into dust. Debts piled higher than the harvest ever could. The food jars in Samina's home grew emptier by the day. Her children began to ask, "Emmi, will we have enough to eat tomorrow?" Her husband sat silently at night, staring at the floor, shame heavy in his eyes. He whispered once, "I've failed you, Samina. I cannot even feed my own family." Samina held his hand and said softly, "You haven't failed us. We will fight together. Allah never closes one door without opening another." But inside, her heart trembled. How long could they survive like this? One night, unable to sleep, Samina opened her wooden chest. At the very bottom lay a small cloth bundle. She unwrapped it, and there it was, her wedding necklace. It wasn't just gold. It was the last gift her late mother had given her on her wedding day. Whenever Samina wore it, she felt her mother's presence, her blessings, her love. She held it in her hands, tears falling onto the gold. "Ammi, this is all I have left of you, but what is its worth if my children are hungry?" The next morning, with a heavy heart but firm steps, she walked to the goldsmith in the town market. Her hands shook as she placed the necklace on the counter. The goldsmith looked surprised. "Samina, this necklace is precious. Are you sure?" She nodded, though her throat tightened. "Yes, I need food for my family. My children's lives mean more than my memories." As she left the shop with money in her hand, and though her heart ached, her soul felt lighter, because she had chosen giving over keeping. When Yusuf saw the sacks of food, his eyes widened. Where did this come from? Samina hesitated, then whispered, "Sold the necklace." His face turned pale. "No, Samina. That was your only treasure, your mother's memory. How could you?" She placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "What is a necklace compared to the life of my family? My joy is not in wearing gold, Yusuf. It is in seeing you and our children live." Tears rolled down Yusuf's face. In that moment, he realized that his wife's strength was greater than any wealth. She had given up her past to secure their future. Life slowly stabilized. With food on the table, Yusuf regained his strength and worked harder than before. The children studied, fueled by their mother's sacrifices. Years passed. They never became rich, but their home was always filled with warmth, laughter, and prayers. One day, Samina's daughter, now a young woman, asked her, "Amy, other women wear jewelry. Why don't you have any?" Samina smiled and touched her daughter's face. "Because, my child, the most beautiful jewelry a woman can wear is her courage to give. When you give with love, you already own the brightest jewel. One that shines in your heart, not on your hands." That lesson stayed with her children forever. They carried their mother's wisdom into their own lives, teaching that true wealth is not what we keep, but what we give away. As the years went by, villagers often remembered Samina as the woman without jewelry, but with the richest soul. Her story became a reminder: to all possessions fade, but sacrifice lasts forever. Giving is not losing, it is multiplying love. A woman's strength is not measured in gold, but in the greatness of her heart. Samina's life whispered a timeless truth. When giving becomes greater than receiving, life itself becomes more meaningful. In a bustling town filled with markets, noise, and the constant race for money, lived a humble woman named Farah. She wasn't rich, nor did she have much education, but what she carried was far greater: an endless capacity for love. She worked as a seamstress, her fingers often sore from endless stitching, yet her heart was always soft and open. Farah was married to Iran, a man of few words but deep loyalty. Their love was simple: no grand gestures, no expensive gifts, only the quiet comfort of two souls, walking together through life's storms. Together they raised their young son, Adil, whose laughter lit up their small house. Farah's most precious possession was her wedding necklace, given by her mother. It wasn't just gold, it was memory, blessing, and heritage wrapped together. She rarely wore it, but always kept it safe in a small wooden box under her bed. To her, that necklace symbolized love's promise, that true bonds are not built on wealth, but on sacrifice. The test of love. One day, life brought a test that would change everything. Imran fell ill. At first it was a fever, then weakness, until one evening he collapsed. Rushed to the hospital, the doctors told Farah with grave faces, "He needs urgent treatment. Without it, his life is at risk." Farah's heart sank. The cost was more than what they had ever seen in savings. Their bank account was nearly empty, and her sewing earnings barely covered food. She stared at her husband lying weak on the bed, whispering, "Don't give up, Imran. I won't let you go. That night, alone at home, Farah opened the small wooden box. Her eyes fell on the necklace, shining faintly in the dim light. Her mother's words echoed in her memory. Daughter, this is yours to keep. But remember, love sometimes asks for sacrifices greater than possessions. Greeter's hands trembled. Could she really give it up? It was the last piece of her mother's blessing. Yet when she closed her eyes, all she saw was Imran's pale face, his chest struggling for breath. At that moment, she understood true love speaks not with words, but with sacrifice. The next morning, she sold the necklace. With tears streaming, she handed the money to the hospital. Imran's treatment began immediately. The silent strength of weeks passed. Imran recovered slowly. Unaware of what Farah had done, she continued her sewing, smiled at him, and cared for Adil as if nothing had changed. Inside, her heart ached for the necklace, but she carried no regret. One evening, Imran asked her, Farah, how did you manage the hospital bills? We had no savings. Farah only looked at him, smiled faintly, and said, Some things are not important, Imran. Your life is my treasure. But he pressed on. One day, while tidying the house, he found the empty wooden box under their bed. His hands froze. He understood. Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, She gave away her only inheritance for me. That night, Imran held her hands and said, Farah, you have taught me something greater than love itself. You've shown me that sacrifice is the language love speaks most truthfully. Love. That echoes through time. Years went by. Adil grew into a strong young man. Whenever he asked his mother why she never wore jewelry like other women, she would tell him, Because, my son, I once traded gold for something far more precious, your father's life. That was my wealth, and it will always be. Her words etched themselves into Adil's heart. Later in life, whenever he faced choices, he remembered his mother's lesson. True love is not proven in what you hold on to, but in what you're willing to let go. Farah's sacrifice became a legacy. It wasn't written in books or carved in stone, but it lived in her family's hearts. Every act of kindness, every small sacrifice her son made for others, was a reflection of her strength. The eternal truth. Farah grew old, her hair silver, her hands worn. But whenever neighbors asked her secret of a happy life, she would say softly, Love is not a word to be spoken. It is a language. And sacrifice is its purest form. You see, true love is not about what we gain, but about what we're willing to lose, for the sake of someone else's happiness. And so, her life whispered a truth for all generations. When sacrifice becomes the language of love, it speaks louder than gifts, louder than promises, louder than time itself. Key lessons for listeners. Sacrifice is not loss. It is love's highest expression. True wealth is not in possessions, but in the lives we save and the hearts we protect. A woman's love often shines brightest in her silent sacrifices. When words fail, sacrifice speaks the truth of love.